Our topic for today is a new year, a new me. The holiday season is winding down and we just celebrated the beginning of a year that I suspect we all look forward to with great anticipation of change from the past for the better. So with the coming of this new year, today we're going to spend some time looking ahead at ways that we can impact our lives for the better in 2020. So the question for today is this. What is the one choice that you can make starting today to release the past and embrace a life that you love living? Once again, what's the one choice that you can make today to release the past and embrace a life that you love living? No matter what the outward appearance might be, 2021 certainly taught me particularly the preciousness of the gift of life, the need to cherish those things that we love and to savor those times that we have together. 2020, a year in which many of us became more aware and more clear about what was important in our lives. A year in which we realized the many things we took for granted and enjoyed in our life and previously really didn't appreciate. It was a year in which reaching out to touch someone, whether it be across 1 mile or 1,000 miles, took on a whole different meaning. It was a year in which many of us embraced the gift of life by realizing how valuable our health and our mobility and our connections were for us to really feel joy in our lives. Quoted Ernest Holmes in Richer Living as saying, "We cannot experience joy around us until we have created it within us." And I think the real truth is we cannot experience any of the God qualities until we create them within us. If we want love, we have to be love. And if we want to feel freedom, we have to create the knowing within ourselves that freedom is right where we are, in our minds and in our hearts. Now, I don't say these things lightly, nor do I think these things are easy for many of us to do. The truth is, though, it doesn't have to be hard. And yet our humanness often makes it hard to see that which we already possess right within us. We learn that life goes on, be it in a fashion that we might not want, or no matter how hard we try in a way that we didn't want it to happen. I had a friend once who used to say to me, "Would you really push a peanut uphill with your nose?" And of course, that sounds so ridiculous. And the answer would be, of course I wouldn't. And yet, it seems like sometimes I take that approach to some of the things in my life. I make them more difficult than they need to be. I fail to look outside of the box for different solutions to problems or for different ways that I could behave rather than perpetuating the bad habits of which I'd love to get rid of. Can anybody else relate to that? I sure hope so, because I know that I'm not the only one that has pushed that peanut up a hill with their nose. It's a new year now and life goes on as it has been, and we can have it go on with much more love and joy and freedom and peace and connection, whatever it is that you're seeking. I was thinking that maybe today's title should have been New Me, New Year, instead of New Year, New Me. For I think the truth is, until there's a new me, there really isn't going to be much new in the new year, in a sense of a new experience, which is what we're all really after, I think. I had a great ministerial friend of mine who used to say, "Wherever I go, there I am." And that's so true, because wherever we go, there we are. And the same self tends to turn new experience into something that we experienced before. We dig into the past and we put it into the present, and something that shows up, we decide that that's the same as an experience we've had in the past. There has to be a true change in the self, a change in the consciousness before there is a real deep change in one's life. You might say that it's consciousness first and form second. We often say that we can't solve a problem with the same consciousness that it was created with in the first place. And that's why we need to shift who we are and how we look at things. And sometimes we mess around with that world of form trying to generate change. We change our location. We change our relationships. We change our jobs. It all seems to end up the same because wherever we go, there we are with our same consciousness. So what if we made the decision to learn by trial and error? If something isn't working, think outside the box. Make some small steps to change things. Do something that makes it feel different. Take that small shift today and the next day and the next and the next. Have a new experience of yourself through the experience of revealing your wholeness, through healing whatever it is that needs to be healed. Are you with me? Let's take a short process for the new year, which you can use over and over again. I guess that one of the good things about us taping our Sunday services is that you can come back and use this throughout the year whenever you get stumped. So you can use it again and again. We want to get started on a new year by visioning a bit about what it is you would like 2021 to be for you. What do you want to let go of, and what do you want to embrace? Today, with a brand new year beginning just days ago, we have the opportunity to participate in a very meaningful ritual, which I'm going to call Release and Rebirth. Rituals that are entered into with a positive intention can be very powerful. And it would be best if you had a piece of paper and a pen, so if you didn't get it earlier when I suggested it, perhaps you might want to get it now. The Release and Rebirth ceremony is a symbolic way to cleanse our lives. It's a symbolic way to let go of the past and move on to rebirthing who we came here to be. We release old attitudes and beliefs that we no longer want to be a part of our life. And we rebirth new, wonder-filled beliefs and events. And today we go about this consciously. Releasing of the old, those things that are standing in the way of us moving forward with what we truly want. And rebirthing of the real you. That expression of the divine that was birthed into this world full of hope and light and love. Let's get started with the release part of the process. The first thing we have to do to accept more good into our life is to make room for it. If you want a new wardrobe, you have to clean out your closet and make space for those new clothes. So let's go and look at some of your current things so that you can make room for new ones. Similarly, we want to do some spiritual and emotional and mental releasing as well, because when we release things that we no longer want to have in our lives, we can move on to what we do want to have in our lives. Life is like a flow, and we restrict that flow by staying stuck in our anger, in our hurt, in our fear, and especially stuck on those beliefs that no longer serve us. So I have a little quick exercise for you. Take as deep a breath as you can and hold it. And now try to take another breath before you release the first one. Haha, gotcha. You can't do it. You cannot take a second breath until you let go of the first one. There's just no space for it in your lungs. The same is true in our lives. We let go of some of the old stuff so that we can accept new things. I suspect that many of us have been thinking about New Year's resolutions, and even if you didn't make any, because it's the beginning of a new year, you have this sense of new beginnings starting. And during the release stage, we take our fears and our hurts and whatever errors we might feel we've made in the past, and we transform them by letting go of any hold they have on us. This releases our personal power from the blockage, freeing it up to work in our lives in a constructive way. It takes a lot of energy to keep mistakes and fears hidden. Has anybody ever noticed that? So it's time to let them go. It's time to take that energy and choose to use it in a way that is conscious and life-enhancing. So in this release phase, we affirm we have the spiritual ability to live the life that we are called to live as co-creators with the divine. Let me repeat that. In the release phase, we affirm that we have the spiritual ability to live the life that we are called to live as co-creators with the divine. Think about that for a second. When we commit and dedicate ourselves to living a spiritual life, we have to let go of old thoughts and attitudes and beliefs so that we can take on hold of the qualities and the attitudes and the beliefs that we want to express in our new life. A life where we feel free to live in the full expression of who we are as spiritual beings and as heirs to God's goodness. Helen Keller said, "Life is either a daring adventure or nothing." You deserve loving, supportive relationships, a splendid home, peace of mind, full expression, and total joy of living, that daring adventure of a magnificent life. Life is to be expressed and experienced fully and joyously. So let go of what you're hanging on to, what is standing in the way of you living the life that you want. That's what we're talking about today in the release phase of this process. Those things that are standing in the way of what you truly want. So we're going to move into a quiet space so that the infant loving presence might help us focus on releasing what is not serving us. So I invite you right now to close your eyes if you feel comfortable doing that, and just pay attention to whatever it is your heart brings up. Infinite loving presence in whom we live and move and have our being. We focus now on the present moment. We open ourselves to the light of the Christ within us, understanding as we reflect inward, we easily know the feelings, opinions, and actions that call for our attention and that are ready to be released from our consciousness. We know that the presence of the divine is with us always. Continuing to keep your eyes closed in this open-hearted, safe space, allow yourself to become aware of the old thoughts and attitudes that you no longer need or desire to hang on to. Perhaps it's lack, limitation of some kind, unworthiness, illness, unforgiveness, whatever it is. Be aware of it and be willing to let it go. Consider what your life would be like to be free from these things in the new year. And just allow each thought to come into your conscious awareness. Let it come easily. Don't try to force it or make something up. Let come to you whatever's coming. And as thoughts come, jot them down or jot a few words down to remind you of what that particular thought is that you want to release onto your paper. Just a short sentence or a few words. And after you write that thought down, close your eyes once again. Go back into your heart, releasing and letting go of the parts of the past that no longer serve you. Just moving through this process again. What is it that I would like to be free from in this new year? And continue to just ask yourself that question over and over again. And notice anything that's unlike love that you can write down so it can be released. And when you're through, sit with your eyes closed. Bask and breathe in the newness of you in this present moment. Just breathe that in, the newness of you. And just take a few moments now to just complete this process. Hold your paper, recognizing that by writing on it, you place the problem away from yourself. So you can tear up that paper into little small pieces, you can shred it, you can burn it. And as you do that, repeat this phrase: I release this now and let it go. I am free. I release this now and let it go. I am free. I release this now and let it go. I am free. So now we're going to enter into the rebirth phase of this process. You know, big dreams turn on the energy in your 18 billion brain cells. Those bountiful and probably underused brain cells are totally available to support you in living a dynamic, exciting, passionate, and fun life a life of daring adventure. A lot of us look ahead at the upcoming year and think, all right, this is it. This is a year I'm fill in the blank. So I'm going to ask you now to pick up that other piece of paper so that we can continue with this ceremony, opening to all that you would like to bring into your life and renew within you in the coming year. What I've experienced is that goal setting or visioning done with enlightened awareness gives direction to my life. So we're going to make a plan for your life, or at least for the coming year. One which is in harmony with your talents and your abilities. Because if we don't, we're like a ship without a captain. We're just drifting about. And I know that I've been adrift at times in my life. Can anybody else relate to that? Herman Melville, the author of Moby Dick, said this: "To write a mighty book, you must have a mighty theme." So we're going to create a mighty theme for you in the coming year. And as I go through each of these new sections, I invite you again to close your eyes, to listen carefully to the questions, and to ponder how they settle with you. Take notes as you desire on your paper, and let your heart be fully engaged in listening and responding with empathy and with kindness. Do I express love this year? Real love. The kind of love that doesn't announce itself in flashy circumstances or structured conditions, but authentic, quiet, internal love. The kind of love that bubbles to the surface when I gaze at another with understanding. A love that places me in their shoes, granting freedom from judgment and deepening my compassion. A philanthropic love that expresses because it simply feels compelled to, because it knows there is more than enough and everyone can benefit. And if I fell short of this in the past, then in the coming year, I resolve to be and do better in my authentic loving. Do I forgive this year? Really forgive? The kind of forgiveness that cracks open my heart, peeling away one more layer of righteous indignation and allowing my soul to breathe. The kind of forgiveness that loosens my clenched fist, held high in a situation so that I don't enter into the next one with a guarded mistrust. The kind of forgiveness that comprehends there's a difference between understanding a behavioral choice and condemning it. And if I fell short of that in the past, I resolve to be and do better in the coming year in my forgiving. Do I stop this year? Really stop? The kind of stopping that cannot help but make me vulnerable by becoming more familiar with who I am, without distractions, without smoke screens, without excuses, or without self-imposed numbing. The kind of stopping that turns me naked towards my feelings, giving them permission to express. No right or wrong. A stopping that simply lets me hear what I need to hear so that I can live more effectively. And if I fell short of that in the past, I resolve to be and do better in the coming year and allowing myself to stop. Do I seek adventure this year? Real adventure. The kind of adventure that requires me to not only take a leap of faith off my cliff of familiarity, but actually sends me back to get a running start. Imagine that. The kind of adventure that shakes the dust off my capable but underused wings and gives them an opportunity to catch the gorgeous wind of change. The kind of adventure that knows there is no outside safety net in this physical world, only an internal one. The kind of adventure that shouts, "I choose to live freely." And if I fell short of that in the past, then in the coming year, I resolve to be and do better in seeking adventure. Do I seek wellness this year? Real wellness. The kind of wellness that requires me to be fully conscious of what I put into my body. The kind of wellness that requires me to practice what I preach when it comes to self-love, while understanding that the power to dissolve poor habits starts by simply choosing to change. The kind of wellness that says, this is the only body I've got. Treat it with respect, praise it daily, and honor it as the holy temple that it is. And if I fell short of that in the past, which, hey, I know I did, I resolved to be and do better in allowing wellness in my life. Do I play this year? Really play. The kind of play that gives value to the heavenly activity of fun, knowing that fun is sacred, that play is the equivalent of work, and that during play, renewal and relaxation usher in the newest ideas and the clearest choices for better manifestations. Do I view play as a necessary life function and not a debatable luxury? And if I fell short of that in the past, I resolve in the coming year to be and do better in my relationship to playing. Do I set a goal and see it to completion this year? Really complete it. The kind of completion that lets the vibration of satisfaction and confidence in my abilities head any opposing ideas of not being good enough. Do I honor my life and its sacred purpose by utilizing my time with forward thinking and letting my mistakes be motivators, not antagonists, learning by trial and error? Do I dissolve any insecurities and procrastination by understanding that my untapped genius has but one mode of expression, and that mode is through ideas, thoughts, words, and actions? And if I fell short of this in the past, in the coming year, I resolve to be and do better in setting and completing my goals. Do I open myself up to learn this year? Really learn. The kind of learning that entices me to enroll in being a student of life with thirst and enthusiasm. Do I see an intention for uncovering more of my potential, letting divine intellect eat from my plate as I step deeper into the waters of wisdom? Do I open a book, take a class, study a language, learn an instrument, write a poem, visit another culture? Do I learn to surprise and thrill myself with the infinite capacity I have to master more than I thought I could? And if I fell short of that in the past, in the coming year, I resolve to be and do better on my personal path of learning. Do I clean up my relationships this year? Really clean them up. The kind of cleaning that requires me to break open the lock, pull back the curtain, throw open the window, and start removing the dust of harsh words, grudges, false accusations, and misguided choices that have layered my heart. Do I make amends for the fearful ways that disheartened another, for neglecting to honor their point of view as well as my own? With careful examination, do I communicate my truth, understanding that sometimes all we may be able to do is agree to disagree, and to do so without judgment or malice? And if I fell short of that in the past, In the coming year, I resolve to be and do better on cleaning up my relationships. Do I share my good this year? Really share. The kind of sharing that comes from the pure joy of seeing another succeed, not from what I think they can or will do for me in return. Do I tithe back to where I'm spiritually fed, transformed, and inspired? Do I practice random acts of kindness and give of my time, talent, and treasure, realizing that my good is a part of a never-ending wellspring that cannot run dry, whose source is and always will be the infinite wellspring of the divine? Do I commit to walking the altruistic path, remembering that every step brings healing and enlightenment to the world? And if I fell short of that in the past, in the coming year, I resolve to be and do better in sharing. Do I pray this year? Really pray. The kind of prayer that is spoken not to God, but as God. Prayers that affirm rather than beseech, that are pregnant with knowing rather than bloated with doubt. Do I make my everyday activities a prayer, realizing that every thought I think carries with it the responsibility of its effect on the world? Do I remember how truly powerful my own prayer actually is, and that by simply devoting myself to the practice of it, I become the change? Do I remember that my prayer takes what I seek and introduces it to me, the seeker? And if I fell short of that in the past, I resolve to be and do better with praying. Do I do all things because deep down inside, I fully understand how precious I am, and that these things and these activities help me to see that I am held in the light as a perfect idea? Do I remember that I have been perfectly conceived and am always held in the perfect mind of God as a perfect being? Do I know that there is nothing that I can ever say, nothing I can ever do that will separate me from the love of God? And if for any reason I forgot my divinity in the past, in the coming year, I resolve to be and do better in my knowing of it, to fully understand and embody the truth that it is done unto me as I believe. And I believe in the power of good for me, for you, and for everybody on this planet. So let's just pause for a moment right now. Take 3 deep breaths. And I invite you to ask yourself, what do I want in the coming year? What is it, even if it stretches me, can I believe in? Can I accept? Can I confidently expect? Because in the various areas of your life, in your relationships, in your career, in your financials, in your special callings, there is an experience that is pulling you towards it. And ask yourself, if I don't answer that call right now, if not now, when? So take a moment to write down on your paper that which you would like to bring into the coming year. And if you feel stumped, just imagine that you were talking to one of your best friends and you were telling them what you want it to coming year to be like. What would be some of the things that you might say? And write those down. You might want to take a look at each of the things that you wrote down and think about what might be standing in the way of you actually getting that. For example, one of my personal resolutions for the past few years has been making sure I find time for ease and grace and to enjoy the small pleasures of life. And recently, last year, I added a work-oriented resolution of finishing my doctorate. Well, what stands in the way of me getting my doctorate is not that I'm not capable of doing it, but it's me not setting aside the time to write. So I have to release something that's taking up my time and replace it with writing time. And that's easier said than done sometimes, but it makes me take a look at my priorities. Do I really want that doctorate bad enough to make the time to write? So I'm going to give you just a few more moments to complete writing down that which you are bringing into 2021. And know that whatever came up for you is absolutely perfect. And when you're done with your list, feel free to email it to me or to text it to me. You can put it in an envelope sealed up, and I won't actually open it, just right on the outside of the envelope, my coming year. And I will know that that's your list of what you're desiring, because I would love to help you by praying over those aspirations that you have, knowing that they're becoming a reality for you. As we wrap up, what are you going to focus on? Are you going to be willing to learn by trial and error? Are you going to notice the effect that your presence, your love, your adventure, your play has on yourself and others? What are you wanting to release to make room for a marvelous coming year? What is it that you're willing to let go of so that you can have a coming year filled with gifts of wonder? And what is it that you want to rebirth? To truly step into all of who you are and all of who you've come here to be. Because remember, wherever you go, there you are. So start with one of your desires today and take one small step towards it. And do that step for at least the next 3 days. For now, let's just pray. Taking a deep, nourishing breath. And moving into that space that we know we are being rebirthed for this new year. Knowing that all that God is right where we are. Wherever we go, there we are, this God expression. So what I know to be the truth is that everyone is taking some time to let go of what's not serving them and to rebirth that energy of love and light and hope and joy within them. And I am so grateful. I'm so grateful for this opportunity we had today to go through this small process. I'm grateful for your participating in this. I'm grateful for this community in so many ways. And it's from all that gratitude that I release these words into the law of mind, spirit, and action, knowing the truth that they've already been done, that God has already said yes to all these wonderful new intentions we have, and put that stamp of love and joy right within you to have the energy to make it happen. So I can just say amen, and we can affirm it together. And so it is.